simple introduction, man. Who are you? What do you do in the band? And kind of little background on why we're having this conversation.
Okay. Well, my name's Pat. I play bass in the band Broadside. Played bass in Broadside for about 6 years so far. My first show with them was I think it was San Antonio Warped Tour 2016, whatever the first day of that run was. So it was pretty intense.
For sure. I was just telling somebody, we've got Sad Summerfest and a couple of these, like, I say wannabe Warp Tour festivals coming around. But,
Mm,
like, Warp Tour was just such a different fucking animal. And, like, I don't think that kids now, even with, like, the When We Were Young festival or anything like that, are truly ever going to get to experience what Warp Tour was.
oh yeah, there was just like I don't know, for lack of a better term, there was just a vibe that like
Yeah.
whenever you show up to the festival grounds, you're like, oh, okay, it's here. This is what it is, and it's going to be a long day.
Yeah, yeah. It never, and it seemed like no matter what way they routed it, whatever city they were playing, it was always the hottest day of the year for that city, the day that Warped Tour was there.
Yeah, it's like they collected all like the meteorological data. I was like, all
Yeah,
right, we need to hit all of these cities on these specific days, so it's just unbearable.
yeah, yeah. But I grew up with Warped Tour, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I have just a shitload of great memories of, seeing bands for the first time or being exposed to new bands, and I think that's the cool thing is because when I got exposed to Broadside was, man, it was probably around that 2016 time frame, where just
Nice.
seeing the name pop up on the list and you start digging in as especially for me like as a music journalist and going, okay, this is a band that has something, it's just a matter of developing it. And that's what I was telling
Mhm.
Jess just a minute ago is like it's funny now, like as you guys have started releasing new music, the 2020 album, Into the Raging Sea, and then this new set of singles. Like, I have friends that are now like, "Hey, man, have you heard about this band, Broadside?" Like, they're this new blah blah blah, and I'm like, "But they're not new, guys. Like, they've been killing it, and you just haven't seen them yet."
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it definitely is crazy. Not to sound like arrogant or anything like that. Well, whenever every so often I'll ask, like at the shows, I'll ask like, who is seeing us for the first time, and just a ton of hands will go up, and I'm like, wow, that's crazy because of
yeah,
like all the touring that we did early on in our career, like even before I joined. Um, the fact that people are still finding out about us. I mean, and it's sick because that way we're meeting new people in addition to like the same people that are consistently coming out to our shows and we're just like hanging out with them. But meeting new people is always very sick. And it's always very humbling to have somebody come up and be like, hey man, I've been listening to you guys since I was in like eighth grade and I'm like 24 now or something like that.
yeah,
Um, and then other people coming up like, hey, I came to see Silverstein because you guys are on tour with Silverstein right now. I came to see them and I heard about you guys tonight for the first time and I'm a fan now. So
yeah.
it's super cool.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting thing too for you guys. Like, you don't fit in a box, and I mean that in the best sort of way. Like, you guys aren't pigeonholed as a band that, oh, I can only go out and tour with these pop punk acts or whatever. Like, you guys
Mm-hmm.
fit in a wide variety of musical genres, and I think it's really been beneficial for you guys because, like you said, Silverstein, but now you're out headlining with Young Culture, First and Forever, and Sherry Moore. Like, they're not necessarily in the same boat as Silverstein or even some of the Warp Tour bands from back in the day.
Yeah. That's something that we as a band have always taken pride in and like consciously tried to like cultivate whenever we're like trying to write new music. Like, Old Bones in Paradise, they were all in the same vein, really, but like sonically different enough to be like, oh, okay, well, there's a little bit of growth there. But then Into the Raging Sea, we were like, what if we made just something like a little darker, um, but still maintaining elements from the first two albums. And that's always been like our approach was like make it different, but still make it familiar enough to not like alienate all the older fans that maybe like more of the generic, like cut and dry pop punk sound, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's something that you guys do really well is, like you said, it's changing the sound, but I feel like it's more like you're just maturing, right? As artists and as songwriters, but like as human beings more than anything. So it's that I've brought it up on my podcast before where like I love Newfound Glory, but I understand that they're not the 17, 18-year-old kids that wrote Sticks and Stones anymore. Like, I don't
Right,
expect that
right.
out of them. And it's
Hmm.
always sad when there is, the gatekeepers or whatever you want to call them that are like, oh, but this album doesn't sound like that. Yeah, they're not fucking 20 years old anymore. They have adult
Yeah,
problems now, not kid problems.
yeah, exactly. That was 6 years ago. Like we don't. I'm not thinking the same way I did 6 years ago.
Yeah. And if you are, like, I guess do yourself, like be you,
Yeah,
but if you
yeah,
haven't
yeah.
grown in 6 years, man, you probably need to
Right.
reevaluate some of your stuff in life.
Yeah, change something, man. Get a haircut, wear different pants or something like that.
Yeah, for
Shake it
sure.
up a bit.
Yeah. So before we get into all the new music, I want to talk about the tour that you're on. Primarily because I'm a huge Young Culture fan. I've actually had them on the show a couple of times. What's it like, being out on the first headlining tour for yourself, for the guys, really, and being able to kind of make that stand that, we are a band that is able to carry the bill?
Um, it's equal parts like exciting, but then also like stressful. Because not like just being a support band before, we're just like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna show up whenever they tell us to show up, and then we're gonna set our stuff up whenever they tell us to put our stuff wherever. Like we're always having somebody, the headliner, tell us what to do. But now we're the people that have to kind of like take care of the other bands, make sure that everybody's got the water that they need, everybody has adequate like merch space and stuff like that. So it's exciting in the sense that we're headlining for the first time. We have a chance to like really prove ourselves, so to speak, but then also stressful, like all the behind the scenes stuff, like getting like vehicle rental and trailer rental sorted out. And then also having like enough merch so that we don't run out like in the middle of the tour, which seems to be an ongoing theme for us.
Yeah. But
And
it's the.
it's,
Go
sorry, go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go for it.
And it's super cool that we got to bring out, Young Culture, First and Forever, and Sharia Moore, because those are bands that we like their music, and now that we've met them, we also like them as people.
Yeah.
So it's super cool to just like be able to build a tour of just like super chill people, and we all get along. There's no egos, none of that stuff. So it's super sick.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, the thing I was going to say was around the merch. Like, it sucks, but it's also like the best problem to have, right? That, oh, damn it,
Yeah,
we ran out of merch. But hey, we ran out of merch. Like, that's fucking cool.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
a band from the UK was actually just talking about they had some tour difficulties and ended up were stranded 300 miles from home,
Oh,
with a breakdown, and they were telling people, like, we're not begging for money, or anything like that, but this is why we say that merch matters more. And they did the math for them specifically. One $10 T-shirt for them is equivalent to 4,000 Spotify streams from a profit standpoint. So they're like, you can stream our music, but you have to do that 4,000 times, or you could buy
yeah,
one shirt. Like, to help us out. If you're gonna do it,
exactly.
let's play this the right way. And I think that's one of the things that the casual fan, as I like to call them, doesn't really understand when it comes to touring and whatnot. Is yeah, it's $20 for a T-shirt or whatever, but $12 of that, quote unquote, goes back to the band in profit, and then gets divided out amongst everybody and whatever. So like,
Exactly.
when you really look at the numbers, that's where the money comes from, and then obviously ticket sales and guarantees and gates and things like that. But
Yeah.
um, for you guys on this tour, you've hit some pretty sweet fucking places already. We kind of talked about right before we officially started the conversation here. You guys were in Chain Reaction last night. What's it like kind of coming back through these venues that you've played before, but now you're again at the top of the bill?
It's really it makes it a little easier, really, because like go to the venues that you've already played, where everything is supposed to go, like what their policies are and like where all of your empty cases go and stuff like that. So it's like a familiar. It's like going to like your childhood home.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay, I haven't been here in a while, but it's all like starting to come back to me. I know, okay, well, there's a good Chinese spot up on the corner over there, or there's a really nice Target around the corner that we can go get like coffee from the cafe.
Yeah.
And yeah, I like coming back to places that we've played before, specifically for those reasons. It's just comfortable and familiar to us.
Yeah. I think that's a really cool, kind of perspective on it, is that, it's almost like for people that obviously don't tour, going back to a place that you like to vacation or something, and you can just, once you're back there, like, oh yeah, I know that this shop has this or whatever, and it's just, I don't know, it's one of those things for, again, for the non-touring fan, they take for granted, I think, that they know where everything is in their town or whatever, but there's times out on the road where it's like, fuck, it's 2 a.m. Where can I grab something to eat because
Oh
we're
yeah.
on an 8 hour
hmm
drive?
Yeah, it's 2:30 a.m. and all of the gas station lobbies are closed, so you can't even go in and like get a bag of chips. Or the van and trailer are too long to go through the Taco Bell drive-through.
Yeah.
So you're kind of stuck trying to figure out what to do. And then also like some of the other venues, the green room is the size of a king size bed, so
Yeah.
that also poses some difficulties there.
Yeah. No, I've said for a long time that one of my goals obviously is to win the lottery, but I wanted to open a music venue.
Sure.
And with that, like the green rooms were always one of the things that I've told people, like, no, you don't understand. Like, they're gonna have a fucking shower. They're gonna have room to fucking like spread out, get away
Mhm.
from each other, like, because it is. I've been in
Yeah,
those green rooms.
we have the same dream, man.
Yeah, yeah, it's so tough sometimes. Like, even for me as a journalist, coming into a green room and sitting with you guys or whoever, and it's like, okay, well, we can still hear sound check. We can still, we are all touching legs because there's only one sofa here. Like, what do we do?
Yeah, yeah, like everybody's sitting and like two people are standing up because the
Yeah,
sofa's not big enough.
right, right. It's the worst. So talk a little bit about, you guys did Into the Raging Sea, had great success with that, at least, from the perspective of media and fan base.
Mhm.
And then to kind of get slapped in the face with COVID, right? Like, shut down as you started to see this upswing.
Yeah. Um, that was really difficult for us because we put the record out at like the beginning ish of COVID, like beginning stages of it. And we were just like so ready to tour on it. We were like hungry for it. So we were like, all right, yeah, this is we're gonna have like this sick headliner for it. It's gonna be all these things. It's gonna be fresh off the record. So it's gonna be like at the forefront of people's minds, stuff like that. They're gonna be thinking about it. Then COVID happened. And we were like, okay, well, now what do we do? We had to figure out like, okay, well, I guess we'll all get like normal jobs, maybe.
Right.
And then just wait it out, I guess. So it was a little hard to like, I guess, keep the faith sometimes because we were like, well, we don't know if we're ever going to tour again.
Yeah.
And so like, we have to have like some kind of backup plan because I don't know if this is ever going to go away. Um, and if we're going to ever be able to like play another show again, let alone tour, like even just one show would be cool.
Right.
So yeah, it was just really difficult to try and like keep our eyes on the prize and just power through it, just kind of do whatever we can via social media to like make sure people don't forget about us or forget
Right.
the record that we just put out, and just get glossed over and lost like in the media whirlwind of just everything going on.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, the fact that I love and hate that I throw out from Spotify alone, it's estimated that 60,000 songs a day get pushed to the platform. So,
Mhm.
dropping an album and then not being able to really do, I mean, like you said, you've got social media, which is a big platform to push on, but like to not be out and marketing it in that same way of a tour, it's like, how quickly does that get lost in the mud because of how much noise is coming out?
Um, it it varies, I guess, depending on how busy the internet is that day.
Yeah.
Where like I think it was at the beginning, it did pretty well, but then after we kind of like we felt like we were being annoying with it a little bit, like just constantly posting it every
Yeah.
day, so it slowed down after that. But then we were like, no, this is kind of what we have to do if we want to keep going. We have to be annoying about it. We have to like be constantly telling people about it. And then Dom really watches like our Spotify like stats for the
Hmm.
band, and I think we went up like 200,000 monthly listeners with no playlisting and no like not getting added to any huge like Spotify editorial
Right.
playlist or anything like that. And we were like, what the hell? Where did all that come from? And I think right now we're sitting at like 725,000, I believe, or maybe 730.
I'm pulling it up right now. You're
All
actually
right.
at, as of this moment of us talking, 749,000. You are 208 away from being at 750,000 monthly listeners.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Wonderful. Let's get it.
yeah,
But yeah, and then the last tour that we did with This Wildlife, um, those guys really helped us out a lot in the aspect of like, looking at it from the bigger picture. Whereas we'll look at something and get bummed, be like, oh man, we didn't really like the song's not doing really well, or like this show was kind of like undersold or whatever. But then they're like, no, you guys got like 200,000 plus monthly listeners completely organically. Like that's something to be proud of. And they gave us a bunch of like insight on like how they do all of their stuff and how their band is run.
yeah,
So we learned a lot from them on that tour.
yeah.
But yeah, going
Kevin and
back to your
Anna is
question after this, yeah, they're crazy guys.
yeah, um, yeah, and I think they're one of those bands that it sucks to think of your band as a business, but they have figured out that
Hmm.
my band is a business. If this is what
Yeah.
I want to do, it has to make money, um, and they do it so well. And I think the thing for them is, I've heard Kevin specifically talking about like what you just said. Oh, this song didn't get as much traction as we wanted. Well, maybe it was on the wrong platform or in the wrong avenue. So like I've seen them take stuff that hit Spotify and maybe didn't do as well, and all of a sudden it's a TikTok sound, or they're using it with
Hmm.
Instagram Reels, and it's organically. I'm gonna find a way to make this thing catch fire,
Yeah. Like force people to listen to it.
right? In the best sort of way, because they're another
Exactly.
band
Exactly.
that
Right.
is
Right.
just so incredibly talented, and it's funny when people are like, "Hey, have you heard of this wildlife? How the fuck are you just now finding out about this
Yeah.
wildlife?"
Have you not? Like, I'm a little confused.
Yeah, yeah. With you guys, that literally happened to me with the release of your new single, where a friend sent it to me on Facebook or whatever, and he's like, "Dude, you have to check this out." And I'm like years ahead of you, bud. Like, they've got a whole discography that you need to go back through.
Well, Dom just told us that he got stopped by somebody in the parking lot last night after the show. And he was like, "Hey man, you guys played great tonight, but you didn't play your new song." And Dom was like, "What are you talking about? The one that just came out?" He's like, "Yeah, you guys didn't play it at all." He's like, "Yes, we did. We talked about it beforehand and we played the whole thing.
Yeah,
Were you here the whole time?" He's like, "Yeah, I saw the whole show." And he's like, "All right, well, I don't know what to tell you, man. We played it."
yeah. I could see where maybe it's easy to get lost in, get caught up in the banter or whatever before the song, and maybe he just didn't
Yeah,
realize. But it's also only what, a little over 2 weeks old at this point, so
yeah,
we'll give him a little bit of credit on that.
yeah, yeah. He's got time before we come back and test him.
Right, right. And then you're gonna pull him up on stage, make a whole viral
Exactly.
thing out of it.
Yeah, he's gonna sing the whole thing.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Let's jump onto the new single. So one last time is the song we're talking about. Um, so something I don't do anymore is I don't ask the specifics on the song because I don't want to take the meaning away from somebody that makes whatever connection with it. But I do want to hear kind of like song structure and, when you guys are building a song like this, what kind of goes into that for you guys when it's the creative portion of it?
Usually it'll start with like Dom and Jeff sending like riffs back and forth, being like, "Hey, does this sound cool?" Or, "Hey, like, what do you think about this?" And then they'll like build off of it. And then we'll get it to a point where it's like mostly complete before Ollie like starts thinking about melodies and stuff like that. But this time, uh, we worked with a buddy of ours. Um, and we like demoed the song out, did like scratch vocals to it, and then we worked with Andrew Bayless up in Nashville on the song. And when we showed it to him, he's like, "All right, yeah, this is cool, but we should focus on something that highlights the vocals." So we basically like restructured and rewrote the song around the chorus melody, which is something that we've never done before.
Yeah.
We've never like written with outside influence, and then we've also never started with a melody and then built around that. So that was super cool, very different. Bayless is a cool guy. His workflow is super sweet. Um, and yeah, we just held on to that chorus melody, and Ollie laid down like scratch melodies for the entire song, and we basically wrote to what he's saying.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up Andrew because I wanted to bring him up anyway. That dude's resume is insane. So, hooking up with him and, this is
Oh yeah.
someone for people that aren't familiar or don't dig into production or whatever, like he's worked with Sleeping with Sirens, Varsity, Savage Hands. I mean, the list goes on and on. So what's it like, hooking up with someone like that their resume really speaks for itself. It's not this, well, I think I can do this thing for you.
Yeah. He's like, I know I got it. You guys just gotta deliver. So it was a little intimidating because I think the night that we got there, we went out for drinks with him. And that was the day that he had gotten word that one of the songs that he produced for Jelly Roll had
Hmm.
hit #1 on the radio. So
Yeah.
they were out celebrating that. And then over the course of the week of us recording with them, they were just having gold records delivered to the house. So we were just kind of like, "Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to stand so close to the gold record. My bad."
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
might
so
have
it
breathed on
was,
that. I'm sorry.
yeah, exactly. Let me just like wipe it off a little bit. I think I got a fingerprint. But it was a little intimidating at first, but once we like got into it, it was just, like super relaxed.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. I was trying to remember which song he did with Jelly Roll. It's Self Medicated was the most
Mm,
recent. But yeah, like, again, it's just someone that brings something new to the table. Like you said, that's not a way that you guys have structured songs before or even written the demos and things like that. So, bringing in that outside perspective, not saying that you guys need it by any means, but is that something that like after seeing it in actual, do work, um, that you've kind of looked at and went, okay, maybe that's something to explore down the road when we're stuck on something?
absolutely. 100%. Like we're always open to having uh, outside people help, because that was something that our old record label was like very against, because there were a couple times where, when Ollie was living in LA and they did Paradise, a couple people were like, "Yo, dude, like I have a couple of songs if you guys want to like do this." And the record label was like, "Nah, we don't really do that kind of stuff." And we were like, "Okay, the song's cool though." And they're like, "No, you guys got to write the songs." So we're like, "Fine."
Yeah.
But yeah, we're super into the idea of like having like a co-writing situation, uh, especially if the songs are going to turn out that good. Like, why wouldn't we?
Right. Right. Um, so that being said about record labels, because again, the casual listener probably doesn't fully understand how much control certain labels take from you. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not just saying this because Jessica's still on the call and can hear us, but Sharptone does an amazing job with letting you guys have that freedom and creativity. And everyone on their roster really is more like, instead of hey, here's our list of demands or criteria, it's hey, what's the best way we can maximize what you're capable of doing?
Exactly. We have a lot more freedom on Sharptone than we did our previous record label. Like the fact that we even have our own like separate merch store online, like separate from the label, is something that was strictly forbidden previously.
Yeah, it's insane, like I don't want to say all record labels because it's not all of them obviously, but like
Right.
the assumption is most record labels are this, you know, blank checkbook or whatever, which A is not the case because you guys owe them, it's a loan if anything. But
Exactly.
I think the problem is that dependent on the record label, and we won't drop names, but we all know who a few of them are. This record label says, "Cool, here's
Hmm.
what we want you to do, but we're gonna kind of handcuff you, and we're not giving you that much help."
Yeah. That's very similar to what our case was.
Yeah, it's and it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe this is something that we can talk about. Obviously, again, without anything like that. The creative process suffers from that too, right? Because now it's like, okay, we have to fit in their box. I've got all these ideas, or there's so much more potential we could do. Like, what does that do to the mindset of the band when you are being held back, restricted, and creative?
It doesn't do good things, I'll tell you that. Because the the owner of the other label, would like would be sending demos back and forth and like, this song's not good. We're not gonna do anything with it. And we're like, but we just spent like 2 weeks writing this song. I mean, it's not good. We think it's good. And that's where it's kind of like you're kind of like stuck between a rock and a hard place where you're like, well, we like the song and we're the ones that are going to be putting it out and playing it. We want to put it out. We think it's good enough. But we can't really do anything without the label's help. So you're kind of stuck, bending to their demands, so to speak.
Yeah. Have there been any of those types of songs, where they didn't clear the previous label that you've been able to revisit or thought about revisiting now and going, you know what, this is still good enough. Let's do it.
Um, I would say no, just for the fact that everybody in the band now was not a part of the writing process for the previous label for the other
Yeah.
albums.
Yeah. Makes
Um,
sense.
but now like everything that we've shown Sharptone, they're like, all right, yeah, that's sick. Let's do it. And they're like pumped on it. So which is cool.
Yeah. Um, so for you guys, as we move through the year here, and thank God live music is coming back and kind of as much of a full swing as we can get it, right?
Yeah.
What have shows been like, and what's this kind of the feeling as you're out on the road now? And like, I guess the question that I'm trying to get at is how much optimism does this fuel into you now that live music is back?
It's it is a good bit of optimism, me personally. Because most of the shows have been like super sick, awesome crowd participation. But then there are some shows, I think our Texas shows were a little light because we were informed that there was like a really big like COVID upswing
Yeah.
in Texas. So people were like afraid to go out or like buy tickets to events and then end up not being able to go. Um, so I try to be the silver lining and be like, hey guys, it's, we just got to get through this one. And then the next one's going to be good. Like, got to get through this next one. And then the next one's going to be good type thing. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm having a blast.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, that there's so much of that where like because we're such a huge country when we look at landmass anyway, but like we're so divided across state borders and like the upswings in Texas don't always correlate to like the shows in California and stuff. Like
Mhm.
crossing the country like that, talk a little bit about kind of seeing the dichotomy of the US and all these, like I'm from the Midwest and it is nothing like, the East Coast or by God, not near the West Coast. What's
Mhm.
that like, when you guys are out on tour and seeing the different levels of fan base as you move?
Um, it. Sorry, I don't really know the best way to answer that question.
Let me reframe
Um,
the question. As you guys go across the
yeah, could you?
country,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah, no, you're fine. As you guys
Okay.
go across the country, what's it like, when you look at the turnouts and I guess kind of the types of people that are coming out, is there a direct link with like, oh, the Midwest is like our hardcore fan base, and then the West Coast is more of the people that are just kind of out experimenting with music. Is there any of that you're noticing?
Okay, I understand now. Yes. Um, yes, but most of it is just like if like the people at the shows are the ones that like are there because they want to see Broadside. It's not like, oh, well, there's a show going on tonight, and I know a couple Broadside songs and like a few Young Culture songs, so maybe I'll buy a ticket.
Right.
Like everybody who's been at these shows have been like, no, I'm here because I want to see Broadside, which is cool because, like I said earlier, like we're seeing a lot of familiar faces and we're seeing a lot of new faces, and especially with all of the tours going on right now. Um, there were a few places where we crossed paths with like another tour that's like our direct demographic. So we were like, it's a little unfortunate, but what are you going to do? And then that also uh, proves more my point. Like the people that are there want to be there. The people that bought VIP are people that want to be there. They could have been anywhere else, but they decided to come to our show that night.
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that too. With obviously you have zero control over crossing paths with other tours, but like when we get into the big cities, LA and Chicago, things like that, where realistically on any given night there's a dozen shows for people to go to. Talk a little bit about that feeling, because like you said, they've chosen me out of all the options. Like, what's that feel like when you're ready to step up on stage?
Um, it's a little nerve wracking because I'm like, all right, well, these people want to see us and I know what they're expecting and I hope I don't let them down. But it's also at the same time, on the other hand, it's uh, calming because, they're people, I guess they're fans that know us.
Right.
So, and like with us doing VIP on this tour for the very first time, a part of that VIP is like you get early access to the venue. So even if like there's 300 people in the room, the first like 25 people at the stage are there to see us and they care about us. So it's a little kind of like sigh of relief walking on stage and then seeing the people that we just had like a 45-minute conversation with at the VIP.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's another really cool thing, your guys' VIP package isn't insanely priced anyway, and like obviously like Metallica's or whoever is going to be like, "Oh, it's an extra $150 per ticket." Like fuck that.
Yeah.
But
And you get a sticker and that's it.
right, right. But I think that's the cool thing that you guys have been doing on this tour is, it's VIP, it's truly hanging out with you guys. It's much more of what you expect out of a VIP package, and you know, when we really look at it from a economy standpoint, I guess, like it's not that much more. And for you to be able to be the guy that gets to go back to your friends and be like, "Hey, I hung out with fucking Broadside last night. Like, what'd you do?" It just
Yeah,
adds a little
exactly.
bit more to it, right?
Yeah. Like we were worried that like for the price that we had, we're like, are people going to actually pay that? Like if we do this, we're gonna have to make sure that like, they're getting their money's worth and stuff like that. And it's not even like insanely priced either.
No.
Um, so like every time we started, we're like, hey, this is our first time doing this. Thank you. So like that is the phrase of the night every single night is thank you, thank you, thank you, because we're always so grateful that people come to the shows, let alone pay for a VIP package to get a picture with us and then also some goodies. Um, but yeah, and then throughout the night, we're like, if there's anything you guys liked, anything you didn't like, anything you thought we could do different, we kind of open like a suggestion box type thing for them to give us some feedback. But yeah, and they've been really fun to do.
Yeah.
really nice, like getting to meet all the people there.
And like you said, for that suggestion box, quote unquote thing, asking for feedback, like what better way to get real life answers about merch and stuff too? Like, hey, would you guys want fucking koozies? Is that still a cool thing,
Yeah,
or whatever? Like, what kind of merch do you guys want so that we can make
yeah,
those things happen?
yeah. Going directly to the people that are actually holding your merch in their hand, be like, hey, what do you like about that piece of merch in your hand? Is there anything that you want to see different or anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, everyone's always going to say the price, right? Like, well, it'd be nice if it was cheaper, but
Yeah,
usually it's a joke because you already bought it,
hmm
so I'm not changing the
exactly.
price.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I would like the
um,
price of garments to be cheaper too, but we've already printed 100 of these shirts. So what am I going to do with it?
and again, casual fans, I don't think realize that side of the business. Like, you guys out of your own pocket pay for merch so that you can resell it in a sense. Like, it's not cheap. It's not easy to go to a merch company and be like, hey, I need 250 of this shirt in 12 different, or six different sizes, and I have to
Yeah.
have that by the time tour starts, and then I have to go try to sell the $1,000 worth of investment that I just made.
hmm
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
nuts.
a little ludicrous.
Yeah, it really is. And then I think again, fans don't understand like physical copies of your album. That's typically purchased by you guys from the
hmm
label or press company, whoever, and like, hey, I bought my own record so that I could sell you my record. Like, this isn't a freebie thing.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. I'm not just going into my garage and throwing the door open and seeing just thousands of boxes of our CD and just being like, all right, I'll take a couple of these today.
Right. It'd be nice, one day, right?
Yeah, one day.
So let's talk a little bit about, without getting you in trouble with Jessica, especially since she's still on here. What's the remainder of the year kind of look like for you guys? What are you allowed to talk about as far as new music dropping, more tour announcements, things like that?
Um, I'm going to try to remember what Ollie answers people with whenever they ask him this at the VIP. We do have studio time booked um, for the fall. And then we should have one other single coming out before the end of the year.
Yeah, that's
That's
fair.
it.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
totally fair. And I think, again, going into the thing people don't realize is obviously it's all a process. Like, bands don't release an album and then wait 2 years on purpose. Like, it's a year of tour,
hmm
it's a year of writing and recording, and then that album can exist. And
Exactly. A
we're
lot of
just
pulling
now
back
at
the
that.
veil today.
Yeah. Well, and we're just now at the 2 year mark for you guys. But you also
Yeah.
had a year
two
of
years
COVID
yesterday.
in there. Yeah. You had a year of COVID in there too. So
hmm
uh, on the roster, kind of the fun question I want to ask you. You guys design your ideal roster mate tour. Who would you want to go out on tour with from Sharptone?
Oh man.
Yeah, it's a
Uh,
really loaded question.
yeah. Um, Boston Manor, Holding Absence, and let's see. I mean, they're really the only other ones besides us that aren't like metalcore bands.
Right.
It's the only ones that would make sense. Um, oh, actually, you know what? No, here it'll go. Holding Absence, Boston Manor, us, and Don Broco. There we go.
Solid. Solid. Don Broco's doing some incredible stuff too right now. It's
Yeah,
insane.
yeah. Their rise has been one to watch.
For sure. And I think, kind of like you guys, they don't fit in a box. And it's so cool because, like, they've, this is kind of a bold statement. We'll talk up another band for a second. They're the closest thing, I think, right now to kind of like a Bring Me the Horizon feel where it's like everything they drop is so different than the last thing that they dropped. And you have to go, like, what the fuck are they doing? But it's
Oh
all
yeah.
working. So, like, you can't
hmm
fault them for anything.
Yeah, they're definitely span a wide variety of genres and like playing styles, like especially seeing them on Warped in 2018. So we were on the same stage, so we would always be watching them. And I'm just like, man, all these songs like sound different enough, but also at the same time, like they all sound like Don Broco songs.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nuts. I'm super stoked on what they're doing. Holding Absence, for that matter, too, is another one that everything they've released over the last 2 years has just been hit after hit.
Mm-hmm. So, very big fan of that full length they just put out.
Yeah, dude, it's so good. Jessica, I know you can hear me. Let's set up at Holding Absence as well. So, with you guys out on with you guys out on the road right now, you know, coming kind of towards the end of, as we talk, coming up towards the end of the tour. I guess talk a little bit about what the post-tour blues really is for you guys, because again, unless you're in a band that gets to tour, you don't understand how double-edged sword it is, right? Like, it's awesome that I'm out on the road, but I miss family. But then when I get back home, it's awesome that I'm with family, but now I miss being out on the road. Like, what's that kind of feel for you guys?
Oh man, I don't know. It's something that I can't really put into words, you know, because like I guess it's the thing about like every day being like, all right, I have to wake up. I'm going to try to find something to eat, see if there's anything nearby. We have to be to the venue by this time. We have VIP at this time, and then we play at this time. So it's, I think we just miss the schedule, like the schedule that's been made for us. Cause like when we get home, we're like, all right, well, what do I do now?
Right.
I'm still waking up early because I feel like I shoot up out of bed thinking I'm still in the van. Yeah. So yeah, it's just a bummer. I don't know. It's just like, oh, well, now this is boring.
That's fair. I mean, I think, you know, the thing for me is, like you said, that schedule structure of like, okay, I know exactly like when I have to be at these places, but then when you have the day off, it's like, well, fuck, what do we do, man? Like, even on the road, having a day off, it's like, okay, can we go see a movie? Or like, what is there to do? Do we need to be driving for the whole fucking day because we have to get to the next town?
Yeah. Like today, we play Salt Lake City tomorrow, and we were able to book a hotel like 45 minutes outside of Salt Lake.
Yeah. That's not bad.
Which means that we had to drive 10 hours last night from Anaheim. But yeah, now we're just hanging out. We're going to go see Nope later.
I've heard incredible things about that.
Oh, I'm so excited. Usually what our off days will consist of is we'll drive to probably somewhere where we have booked a hotel. We'll show up way too early to check in. So we'll find like a Starbucks or a Panera. We'll get coffee there and then use Google Maps to find the nearest Hot Topic, because that's how we find a mall. Mm-hmm. And then just get out of the van, stretch our legs for a bit, walk around, maybe make some ill-advised impulse purchases.
Spencer's gifts, right?
Yeah. I just really need the Blacklight Pink Floyd poster. Right. You just don't know. But yeah, that's really what an off day looks like for us. If the cities are close enough together, which usually we'll have off days like that on the East Coast because all the cities are so close. Like the longest we'll have to drive is like 6 hours.
Right.
But when you're coming out west, it's just everything is flat and so far apart. And then having to drive through all the mountains doesn't make it any easier too, because you got to drive so slow up and down those.
Yeah, for sure. So you brought up food for a tour. What's that tour food look like for you guys? Like, are you In-N-Out fans? Whataburger? Like, you know, I have to ask that because you were just in Texas and California.
Yes. I will say that I've been vegan for 6 years. Ollie has been vegan for like 13 or plus years. So I think I am more fit to answer the question than he is. But before I went vegan, I was huge Whataburger guy. I thought In-N-Out was okay at best. I liked Whataburger way more.
Yeah.
But nowadays, like we just had Del Taco for lunch. We walked
Mm-hmm.
across the street, got Del Taco. Or we'll get to a hotel and then order like Chinese takeout and have it
Yeah.
delivered. Or something that we started doing is as soon as we're done playing, our TM will like Uber Eats us Taco Bell,
Yeah.
so that by the time we're done packing up, we have like food there waiting for us, which is sick.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it's not a bag of chips from a truck stop, it's usually like Taco Bell or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. So speaking of truck stops, I'm going to ask, again, you've been across the country now. Who's the best? Are we looking at Bucky's, Sheets, Love's
Oh
travel station in
man,
the Midwest?
honestly, all of those for different reasons. I like Loves because it seems like they're building a lot more new ones,
Hmm.
so you'll end up at a lot of nicer Loves. And then usually they'll have like a Wendy's or an Arby's or a Subway attached to it. Bucky's is just a phenomenon in and of its own self.
Yeah.
But they're very vocal about not being a truck stop. They don't allow trucks to park
Right.
in their uh, parking lot. But I think Bucky's would have to be my favorite gas station convenience store stop. And also, I like Sheets more than Wawa. I will say that.
Yeah. It. I've always thought, Bucky's is that unique thing. Like it's bold of them, right? Like I understand that they don't want to be a truck stop, but it's really bold to call yourself a gas station when you're the size of a fucking Walmart and like you have everything, including a food court inside.
Dude, yes. Yeah, you have 100,000 gas pumps. You have a food court with people like constantly cutting fresh brisket. You have a wall of beef jerky. And then you also have your own branded merchandise on one half of the store. And on the other half of the store, it's like Southern comfort, like old Southern mom, like home decor.
Yeah.
God bless this mess type of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. It's insane. You're also one of the few people that I've had that openly says that they prefer Sheets over Wawa. Usually Wawa takes them out, and I don't know why.
I will be a Sheets fan until I'm 6 feet under the ground. Like the fact that I can get a burrito and put tater tots on it is already like the best.
That's a win no matter where you're at.
Yeah. Like in Florida, they don't have any Sheets. We only have Wawa. So, I mean, I will go to Wawa,
Right.
but I'm not gonna fucking, be like, oh man, well, I'm just not gonna eat it. Meh.
Yeah.
I'll eat it if it's there, but I prefer Sheets over Wawa.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's really everything I've got for you. I think that's a great way for us to transition to the end is the controversial gas station comments.
Just go ahead. You guys
But
can let me know your opinions on Twitter.
for sure. And Twitter's a cesspool anyway, so I'm sure you'll catch all
Exactly.
sorts of shit from that. So
All you degenerates.
yeah. So as we kind of wrap up here, looking through the discography for anyone that isn't familiar with you, like we joked about that people are still finding you. I normally ask this question when somebody has a new album out because I like to base it around an album, but I'm going to do it for you for the whole discography, which is a really fucking loaded and tough question.
Okay.
Is what's the song that you think a new listener will gravitate to, and what's the song that you want them to gravitate to?
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah, it's a big question.
Oh man. So what was the first part of it? What song do I think they will
Yeah,
gravitate
what song
to?
do you think they're gonna grab onto the most? I mean, obviously, Coffee Talk is up there, right?
Yeah, I was literally gonna say Coffee Talk. Um, I think they're gonna do that just out of like how hard it was pushed in the beginning. So now it's kind of like everywhere.
Yeah.
But I would like them to gravitate towards either Heavenly or One Last Time.
Yeah.
Heavenly because it's been streaming really well lately. And I think that blends the sound of Into the Raging Sea with the sound of the past two albums like the best.
Yeah.
And then obviously One Last Time because it's the new song.
Right. Right. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. When I started kind of pushing you guys when Into the Raging Sea came out, it was Heavenly and Foolish Believer were the two that I like. Here's a song, here's a new band, guys. Check these songs out.
Yeah.
And then I would be like, okay, now you can go listen to Coffee Talk or, I love you. It's disgusting. Like we'll figure out what else you can listen to afterwards. But
exactly.
Yeah. No. And I think, like we said towards the beginning, One Last Time is really this maturity that you guys have been kind of since you started dropping music, really been pursuing, that you're staying true to yourselves. So kind of my closing question is, how authentic or how important is the authenticity of the band for you guys versus writing just the next big hit?
It's very important because we never wanted to be a band that would go up on stage and fake it, like playing songs about stuff that we don't really, like very shallow surface level topics. Like Ollie has always been like a super like deep and moody kind of guy when it comes to like his poetry whenever he's not writing lyrics. Yeah. And that kind of bleeds into his lyric writing too. And then also like being into bands like The Cure and like Thursday when he was younger, like that really emo bands like Thursday shaped him into like the way he writes. So we've always wanted to be like authentic, because if you're not authentic, then it's kind of like you're not authentic. You're not like giving people like all of you,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I've said, like, to me, the bands that are authentic build that real connection versus one hit wonders, like, cool, I like that song, but I don't give a shit about anything else that they do. Whereas when you build that authenticity, people go, okay, maybe I didn't like that last single, but I still give a shit about what this band is doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly how we feel too. Like that just creates another persona that we have to try and upkeep. Like if we write a song where we're like talking about how great we are, we're going to have to act like that when that's not any of us. So it's easier to be authentic than to try and put on a facade.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate it, Pat. So to do the final closeout question, it's always the same question. That's the simple, where can they find you? I'm obviously going to link all the social media, but what's the best way to interact with you guys online?
All right. Twitter is at Broadside _. Instagram is at Broadside Official. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, maybe some other streaming services, but those are the only two that we use in the band. So I know that 100% we are on there.
Yeah. Awesome, man. I appreciate your time. Go enjoy the movie.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Go enjoy the movie. Obviously make sure Ollie's not fucking talking or anything so that he can perform these last few shows and kill it.
Yeah. We got to go find some duct tape.
Awesome, man. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to, I won't catch you on this tour, but definitely the next one I'm going to find time to get out and catch you guys on shows.
All right. Sounds good, man. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Take care.
You too. Bye.